I was chatting to my granddaughter the other day. She's 9 years old, she'll be 10 soon. And she was getting dressed up for World Book Day. She was going as Matilda. And I started dancing around the lounge singing Waltzing Matilda. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you know the one. And she looked at me and she was like, Nanny, you're so embarrassing. And I had to laugh. And I was like, I know, that's what we're meant to do, isn't it? Dads and nannies were meant to be embarrassing. But it got me thinking, what are the things that I do now that I would have never have done when I was younger because it had been mortifyingly embarrassing? And the more I started thinking about it, the more I thought they're quite funny. So I thought I'd share them with you today. I think the first one is complaining. You know, when you go into a restaurant and the food's not that good, or something, you buy something and it's not that great and you've got to take it back. I would never complain. When I was younger, I'd hang on to something, even though it didn't work, just because I was too embarrassed to actually take it back. Or I'd, moan about a meal I'd had, and then the waitress would come over and say, was your meal all right? And I'd go, yes, it was fine, thank you very much. And now I think, I would not. I'm not a whingy moaning complainer. I definitely do complain when something's not right. Let me know in the comments if you relate to any of these. So yeah, complaining, I wouldn't do it at all. The second thing is wearing some of the things that I wear now. I don't think you can see. How do I do this with the Osmo? I'm in leggings. I bet that's all over the place. Leggings, walking boots. Virtually no makeup. I've got a little bit of lipstick on, but not much. That I'd have been mortified if I wasn't wearing something that was fashionable and trendy. I just, some of the things I wear now, if I think back to when I was younger, I'd have been mortified. Now I think, do you know what? If it's comfy and I like it, I don't care. I'm going to wear it. In fact, earlier this week, I was meeting somebody for lunch, and when I was getting ready to go out and meet them, I found myself thinking, I wonder what I should wear. I wonder what they'll be wearing. And I could feel myself thinking, perhaps I ought to try and wear something that's going to be like something they would be wearing. And then I thought, pull yourself together, girl. What are you thinking? Just be you, be your own self. So that's what I did. But when I was younger, I definitely would try and mould myself in the way that I dressed to whoever it was I was meeting. So if I was meeting a friend who was very sporty and I knew she'd be wearing sort of sporty type clothes, I'd wear sporty type clothes. If I was meeting somebody who was always very dressed up and made up, I'd make sure I was very dressed up and made up. I don't know if it's a form of masking, actually. It probably is. But I found myself doing it again the other day, and thankfully checked myself before I fell into that trap. Another thing I do now that my younger self would have been terribly embarrassed about, I go to tea dances. So my husband Mark and I, we love ballroom and Latin dancing and sequence dancing, and every week we do 2 or 3 dances. We go to tea dances in the afternoon, and I'd have been I think I've always loved dancing. My mum and dad both danced, and I danced from a very young age, but it always seemed like something that really old people do, and not very cool, not very trendy. And now I do it and I love it, and we've got this fabulous community of people who are all there doing something that they love, keeping active and keeping the brain active, because actually dancing is quite well proven to be one of the best activities for keeping both your mind and body sharp as you get older. And yeah, so going to tea dances. Oh my God, my younger self would have been very embarrassed to be seen at a tea dance. I've always had challenges with my weight. My weight is very up and down. And I think something that I do now that would have embarrassed my younger self is I'm perfectly happy to own up to the fact that I wear size 16 clothes. When I was younger, when my weight went up and I had to wear bigger clothes, I'd chop the labels out, the size labels out, because I didn't want anybody to know what size clothes I wear. And I just, when you think about that logically, that's ridiculous, isn't it? Because you are the size you are. People can see whatever size you are. But I would have been so embarrassed to say what size I actually was. And that had nothing to do with the actual size, because when I was a sort of size 10, size 12, I don't know what that is in American sizes. I think you might be sort of two. I think what is a 16 for us is a 12 for you, I think. When I was sort of wearing 10s and 12s, I still cut the labels out because I still felt like I was fat. So I wouldn't let anybody know. Nowadays, I really don't care. I wear a size 16. Up until a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago when I lost weight, it was more like an 18. I would like it to be more like a 12 or a 14. I'm working on it. But yeah, I'm not willing to be embarrassed about admitting to what size clothes I wear. And in reality, we all know that it depends on the make anyway, doesn't it? It doesn't matter what size you think you are. It depends on the make. Just going to sit down for a minute. Oh, because I'm not very good at walking and talking and not getting out of breath. Okay, I'll tell you another thing my younger self would have been mortified and embarrassed by: using public toilets. I would be in so much discomfort holding on rather than going and using a public loo. Oh God, does anybody else relate to this? Whereas now we've got a camper van, well, you're kind of stuck. I mean, we have got a toilet in the van anyway, but you don't really want to be using that all the time. So public loos it is. Plus, I think as you get older, our ability to hang on goes, doesn't it? So, yeah, using public loos, I can't believe I was ever really embarrassed, but I was, and I wouldn't use them. I would be in so much discomfort rather than giving in and using a public toilet. And on a similar vein, we'll get these ones out of the way first. My younger self would have been so embarrassed if she could see my knickers. Big knickers all the way, ladies. Big knickers all the way. No, not in anybody's world are tiny little thong briefs comfortable, let's face it. But my younger self would not have been seen dead in my Bridget Jones knickers. But girls, we need comfort. We need comfort, and we just need to feel the security of big knickers. Anyway, moving on. Talking to myself in public. I cannot imagine for 1 minute my younger self vlogging. Just can't imagine. I still find it a little bit awkward, but I'm not embarrassed by it. But yes, talking to myself in public, talking into a camera, vlogging, there is no way in the world would my younger self have felt comfortable doing that. That it would have just felt, I'd have felt like I was making a scene, making a show of myself, drawing attention to myself. Wouldn't have liked that at all. Nowadays, I really quite enjoy it. I think it probably does help that people are often talking into Bluetooth headsets or talking into their phones, talking with their earbuds in, that sort of thing. So it's probably not quite as obvious when you're talking to yourself. Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. And I know it's quiet here. I haven't actually bumped into anybody. But walking through towns, vlogging in towns really doesn't embarrass me the way it would have done when I was younger. It's still a bit awkward, I'll be honest, but that's not so much the talking to myself. It's more the worry that somebody might go, you shouldn't be taking films in public, you shouldn't be videoing in public. Which, incidentally, by the way, if you are a vlogger and you don't know this, in the UK at least, There is no automatic right to privacy. If you're in a public place and you're vlogging and somebody gets in the way, they don't have a right to privacy, which is interesting, but they don't. So if you ever worry about that, don't, because you're absolutely fine. Right, what next? Let me just go back to my notes because I wrote them down this morning because I would never be able to remember what I've written. Something I would never do when I was younger would be chatting to random strangers. You know, when you, like, if you're waiting at a bus stop, not that I get very many buses these days, but you're waiting at a bus stop or you're waiting in a queue at the checkout or something in a supermarket, or well, anywhere really. When I was younger, I would never have just stood and chatted and said hello, and I'd have been one of those people that kind of put my eyes down, looked away and didn't make eye contact. Nowadays I'll talk to anybody and I don't mind at all, but goodness me, when I was younger I'd have been too embarrassed to just talk to random strangers. Now I really enjoy talking to random strangers. The beauty of talking to random strangers is that you don't have to talk to them for long. You can kind of say hello, have a quick chat, move on, and that suits me down to the ground. Another thing that I do now that I would have been way, way, way too embarrassed to do when I was younger is say what I really think instead of sugarcoating what I thought. Now, that's not to say that I don't consider what I'm saying and I don't just say things to be contrary or, you know, to be difficult or awkward. But I think in the past I would sometimes have been too embarrassed to really say what I was thinking. So if something annoyed me or upset me or didn't sit right with me, I wouldn't have had the confidence, I don't think, to have the courage of my convictions to speak out. Whereas nowadays, yeah, I will. And I do. It's interesting, isn't it? I don't know why that is. Well, maybe it was just I think maybe it probably was a confidence issue, but I would have been very embarrassed if I'd sort of contradicted somebody and spoken out and said exactly what I was really thinking instead of kind of watering it down. Not anymore. Quite happy to say what I feel these days. Another thing that I know that I would have been embarrassed to do when I was younger is to not apologise for everything. I think when I was younger I said sorry an awful lot of the time for things that weren't my fault. Sorry was almost like a default. Oh, I'm really sorry I'm late, even though I probably wasn't, or sorry I kept you waiting even though I hadn't, or somebody would bump into me and I'd say sorry to them even though they'd bumped into me, you know, the kind of thing. And I think my younger self would be embarrassed by how infrequently I'm willing to say sorry now. Of course I will still say sorry if I'm in the wrong. Of course I will. But a great bit of advice I was given a few years ago, which feels really good, is instead of saying sorry, say thank you. Thank you for waiting for me. You know, if you're late for something, don't apologise for being late, say thank you for waiting. Or if you forget to do something and somebody reminds you, don't say, oh, sorry, I forgot. Say thank you for reminding me. And there's a power in that I really like. And I know my younger self wouldn't have been able to do that, but it's a really good bit of advice, and it's not the same as not apologising if you've hurt somebody or you've done something wrong, of course. But I don't know, is it a British thing? I don't know if other nations do this, but certainly in the UK, and I think it might be a woman thing as well, but not wholly a female thing. But I think we're probably more prone to it. It's just apologising for everything, whether it's our fault or not. And yeah, I don't do it really anymore, or at least I don't do it as a matter of course in the way that I did when I was younger. And I'm glad of that, really. Anyway, I'm going to start my walk back. So the last thing, although I could probably come up with quite a few more, the last thing that my younger self would have been incredibly embarrassed about was the fact that nowadays I quite happily embrace my weird. I think we've all got a weird side, haven't we? And I've spent so many years masking all my weirdnesses and now I don't really anymore. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are way more weird than me, but I have my weird moments. And I don't really mask it anymore. And I do think that's probably a bit of an ADHD thing, because there are certain traits about me that I feel like nobody else seems to do those things or think that way. And nowadays I don't really mind that people know them. I don't mind that people know that quite often I'll have a whole day where I don't get out of my pyjamas. Don't think that's as weird as it sounds. I think lots of people are like that. But for a long time I thought that was really weird. I'm trying to think of, sometimes weird isn't weird when it's your own weird. But yeah, I think I happily embrace the fact now that I'm unique, that I don't like the same things as other people. So for example, when I was working, I never really got into all of the things like watching box sets on Netflix or things like that. No, that's not a good example. Can I think of an example? Doing this YouTube stuff, apart from the people that I've met who do YouTube, that I've met through YouTube, I don't know anybody else that does YouTube. So a lot of people that I do know think this is weird. And I know that my younger self would have tried to hide it. I've kept it quiet. I'd have been embarrassed to try, to actually have to kind of explain why I like being on camera and like talking to a camera. Whereas now I'm just like, if you think it's weird, so be it. I'm happy being weird. Other things like, I always used to think Mark and I were a bit weird because we don't have a massive friendship circle. We have our own friends, but we don't have like couple friends. Not really. And I always used to think that was weird and feel like there was something wrong with me or wrong with us because we didn't have all of these couples that we went out with. But it's not really our thing. And now I'm quite happy to embrace the fact that we don't need lots of couple friends. We've got people that we mix with, but the whole kind of, we're going on a holiday with our best friends. We've never done that. We couldn't do it because we haven't got our best friends that we would want to go on holiday with. So yeah, there you go. Let me know in the comments what things would your younger self have been totally embarrassed by that you do now. I think it'll be a fascinating conversation. Let me know. I think it'll be a lot of laughs if you share them in the comments. Right, I'm getting a bit muddy, so I'm going to make my way back to the car. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.